So we began last week. We took a look at the first, I think they're called Mishnayos in Sefer Yetzira. And we began the first one. And I have some a little more material also from Arya Kaplan and a little bit of my own and from the Meforshim. We have there's three Perushim right here on the page that we can get to by clicking, which is unbelievable. On the Ramban, which is probably not really the Ramban. I read Chavel's introduction to it, and the Ramban was so hush hush about his studies and his insights into Kabbalah that he would write a perush about it and then also not tell us about it. He wrote a perush on Eov and he wrote one about Torah Sa'adim, about life and death. There's other writings though that are ascribed to the Ramban, and they came really from his Talmidim and other people around him. So probably the Ramban did not write this commentary, but okay. Rav Sadia Gaon, which is also interesting. First of all, he's from the Go'onim, it's so long ago, and also he has a very philosophical. I mean, this is a Sefer Kabbalah, but his approach is fundamentally philosophical. And we have his commentary to the Sefer Yetzira and the Ravid. And the Ravid actually is a key player in the history of the Kabbalah. I believe his son is Rabbi Yitzchak the Blind. Okay, Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahor, who is part of the Shalshelet HaKabbalah, including where the Ramban got his Kabbalah from. So anyway, let us review the very first Mishnah. V'shloishim u'shtayim nesivois pliois chochma. We're going to talk about the word nesivois and pliois, wondrous pathways. Chakak Yudke Yudke Vavke Tzvakois Elokei Yisrael Elokim Chaim Umelech Olam Kel Shakai Rachum Mechanun Ram V'Nisa Shoichen Ad Moro Mekadosh Shmoi Ubares Oilamo B'Shloishes Farim B'Sapar Sefer B'Sipur. Okay, it's hard to say the words. It's such a mouthful and so many shemos. But it's about the creation of the world, of course, through these 32 pathways we mentioned. The 32 pathways correspond to the Shem Elokim, which appears 32 times in Ma'aseh Bereshis. So there is a correspondence between this Mishnah, that's the beginning of Sefer Yetzira, and the beginning of the Torah, the story of creation. So let me comment on Nesivois, okay? And Rabbi Kaplan has something beautiful about it. The following: the Hebrew word for paths here, nesibot, is a word that only rarely occurs in Scripture. The more common word is derech. What's the difference between a derech and a nativ? In modern Hebrew, the nativ are lanes, like on the freeway. There's a nativ. The Zohar states there's an important difference between the two words. A derech is a public road, a route used by all people. A nativ, on the other hand, is a personal route, a path blazed by the individual for personal use.
You have the
So,
yeshiva named Netivaria in Yerushalayim.
Netivaria in the old city, right across from the Kwaisel, exactly. So, a nativ is a personal route blazed by an individual for his personal use. It's a hidden path without markers or signposts, which one must discover on his own and tread by means of his own devices. So remember that Arya Kaplan, he titled his work Sefer Yetzira, the Book of Creation, in theory and practice. And he sees it as a guide to meditation and to sort of constructing a spiritual universe through contemplation meditation. And so he's talking about these nitivot, these hidden pathways, these personal hidden pathways of contemplation. And this is so wonderful. The 32 paths of wisdom are therefore called nativot. They are private paths which must be blazed by each individual. There is no open highway to the mysteries. You can't take the A train to know the secrets of the Torah. You got to go through the forest and you got to forge your own way in a private and sort of secret way. Each individual must discover his own path. Now, we mentioned there are 231 gates, and I think did we mention that? I don't know, but I've shown before a picture of that. Let me show you a picture again. The 231 gates of Kabbalah. It looks like a spirograph thing. Okay, yes. And what it is, you take each one of the 22 letters of the Aleph base and you connect it to every other letter. You just draw all these lines and you come up with this biographic figure that's really beautiful. So these are the 231 gates of wisdom, and they're going to be mentioned. And the reason I'm mentioning them right now is because the word nativ is the gematria of 462. We could calculate that. Taf nun base yud is 462, which is 2 times 231. 432 is 2 times 231. So those gates are mentioned in Mishnah Shtayim base Dalid. These gates are a means through which one ascends and descends along the 32 paths. So think of it as a two-way street. Or these aren't streets, these are pathways, but they're ways to ascend and descend. So there are these 32 pathways, and they're called nitivot. And nitiv is gematria 432, which is a remez 2 times 231, which are the combinations of all the letters of the Aleph base, using these letters in permutations and combinations to meditate and contemplate and create new spiritual realities. So they're called nitivot. And the next word is called pliot. Pliot, wondrous, like a pele, oisefele, the Kodesh Baruch Hu, is oisefele, which has the connotation of being hidden and separated from the world at large. Not only are these paths individual, but they're hidden, concealed, and transcendental. This is very closely related to the word pele, meaning a miracle. A miracle is separated, independent from the laws of the physical world. It is also influenced by hidden forces. As such, it is a link with the mystical and transcendental plane. The same is true of the paths of wisdom. According to the Zohar, the word Pele specifically relates to the paths of wisdom. The type of miracle denoted by the word Pele is specifically one that it's accomplished through manipulation of these paths. The methods of manipulating these paths is one of the important teachings of Sefer Yetzira. So Plios is at the center of our investigation, our involvement in this discipline. The Sefer the Sefer Yetzirah calls these three mothers a great mystical secret, a sod mufla. So let me talk about this word mufla and pele. The three letters of pele represent increasingly hidden values. The pei is pronounced with the lips, the lamed with the middle of the tongue, and the aleph with the throat. Thus, the first letter is pronounced with the outermost revealed part of the mouth. The last is voiced with the innermost concealed part. The word pele thus denotes the transition from the revealed to the concealed. And let me explain this now in my own words. The very first letter of the aleph base is, of course, aleph. And the way you spell aleph is aleph lamed pei. And those three letters, aleph lamed pei, could be rearranged to pei lamed aleph, which is pele. Okay. And so if we think about the Torah, which begins with the letter base, which is two, and which is bracha and bria. Before the base, there's an aleph, but the aleph is mufla. It's a pele. It's a wonder. There's an expression in Tehillim, Ein lanu esek b'nistarot, al tidrosh b'mufle mimcha. Things that are beyond you, that are mufle, that are plaim, like these nitivot pliot, is like the aleph. The aleph is a silent letter. The base is a plosive. It's a big B, okay, the big B. But the aleph is silent. It's there, but you can't hear it. And in the Torah, the beginning of the Torah, you can't even see it. There's an invisible aleph at the beginning of the Torah. So the aleph is symbolic of God's transcendental, hidden light and involvement, which is behind the scenes everywhere, but can't be discerned really any way whatsoever. It's invisible and soundless. So these 32 pathways, which are roads up and down, paths up and down, are pliot. They're hidden, mysterious. They're at the juncture between the knowable, the revealed world of Bereshit, and the world which cannot be known, the world of Aleph, the world of Mufla, of things that are essentially unknowable, that we can know that they exist, but we can't truly know them. We can't grasp them. They're above us. They're mufle mimcha. Okay? So the Sefer Yetzira is capturing that in this nitivot pliot and characterize them in that way. Another beautiful insight of Bavaria Kaplan, and he says it's from earlier Kabbalists, is the 32 paths of wisdom have their parallel in the human nervous system. The 31 of these paths parallel 31 nerves that emanate from the spinal cord. I took a look at it. I Googled it to see like the nerves coming out of the spinal cord. I couldn't identify them. But the 32nd and highest path corresponds to the entire complex of cranial nerves, nerves up in your brain, which are 12 in number. The nervous system serves a double purpose. First, it transmits messages from the brain to all parts of the body, allowing the mind to control the limbs and organs, right? How do you decide to lift your hand or to clench your fist? Your brain tells it to do so through the nervous system. Secondly, the nervous system transmits information from the various senses to the brain. How do I know how this feels? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it cold? Is it hot? From sensors in my fingers, and that message gets sent to the brain. So the nerves are, of course, two-way streets. Four of the senses, sight, hearing, taste, and smell, come directly through the cranial nerves, which are entirely in the brain. The impulses that come from the lower 31 nerves deal primarily with the sense of touch and feeling. Like the nerves, each of the 32 paths is a two-way street. First, it is the channel through which the mind exerts control over creation. Secondly, however, it is also the path through which man can reach the mind. If an individual wishes to attain a mystical experience and approach the mind, he must travel along the 32 paths. And the 32 paths is Lamed Bet, that's Lev, that's the heart. It is in the heart that the action of the mind is manifest in the body. As soon as the influence of the mind ceases, the heart ceases to function, this being the definition of death. Let me share
AI
with you
shows
now.
31 pairs. AI indicates
Yes?
31 pairs of spinal nerves that emerge from the spinal cord. Well, which is, I think it's interesting that it's pairs because you're indicating like a do three
Yeah,
situations.
right.
They're
Nice.
talking about pairs. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I would like to share the first comment of the Ravid here in Sefer Yetzira, because it's relative to what we just saw in Rabaria Kaplan about the nerves and the heart. He says the following: "B'shloishim u'shtayim nesivois pliois chachma. Tzarich ata leda'at shekol ma shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'olamo kinegdo bara be'adam." Everything that God created in his world, he created a microcosm within man. Shenamar nas adam b'tzalmenu kidmusenu. And this takes us back to the Maimer Atzelim that we were learning of Rav Yitzhak Volozhin, that was all about explaining those words, b'tzalmenu kidmusenu. What does it mean, b'tzelem Elokim? And the Ravid is now commenting on that in the Sefer Yetzira. So this is a beautiful segue between our study of the Maimer Tzelem of Yitzhak Volozhin to the Sefer Yetzira. And everything that God created in the universe exists within man. V'chol ze k'dei sheyizboinen mitoich hanigle et sitrei hachochma. Why is it like that? Why is, let's say, the biological world of man a microcosm of the universe so that we, the Lomdei Atayra, can contemplate the revealed world, like the world of science and biology, and understand hidden wisdom, Sisrei Chochmah. We can understand God's world by examining the physical world. Shenamar, there's a pasuk on this in Eov, V'achar uri nakfu zot, and these are the key three words, umi besari echeze eloka. From my basar, from my flesh, echeze is milashon chazon, to envision. From my flesh, I can envision God, Eloka.
Not
Okay.
grasp, not grasp.
Like lechoz. No, no, I don't think so. Um, let's look that up in Eov. Sorry, Eloka.
And to me, either one works.
Right. Echezeh. V'achar oiriv nakfuzot mibsari echezeh Eloka. And where is it? It's Eov Yud Tet Chavav. So let's try that. Yud Tet Chavav.
I guess the other would be echoz, not echazeh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, what did I say? I thought I said Yud Tet Tet Vav, but no, was it Chavav Tet Vav? Yeah. Okay. B'kitzur, mibsari echze loika is an expression that means by thinking about the human condition and examining myself, we can come to a knowledge, something about God, which is, far from obvious, or it didn't have to be that way, but that's how it is. I'm sorry, I'm not finding it this minute. But mibsari echze loka. So the Ravid is citing that we can learn about God's world, the transcendental world, the world of spirituality, from our own physical world. Perush ha'evarim asher nizdadru achar oiriv ubenechkeku zot ratzalomer atara ad shekol prateha v'kalaleh nechkeku be'adam v'lechein mibsari echazeh eloka. We can see something, learn something about God from our own selves. Okay. Um, I want to I want to share two more ideas. One is about the Shem Shakai. We spoke last time about the 32 wondrous paths of wisdom, and I mentioned that if the diameter of a sphere is 10, like 10 spheroids, then the diameter would be pi 10, pi d, which would be 31.4, which I rounded up to 32. Okay. And so part of what we're envisioning here is a sphere with a diameter of 10 and then a circumference of 32 paths. Another expression of that same idea of pi, the relationship between circumference and diameter, I have actually a few more, but one is in the Shem Shakai, and I learned this from the Leshem. The gematria of the Shem Shakai is of course 314. Shin is 300 and Yodalid is 14. So 314, you can see where I'm going with this. That is 100 times 3.14. So think about this name Shakai And recall that it has, you see that it has the word die. And Chazal describe this name of God as being the one, Misha Amar Le'olamo Dai. And it's a description
The
of the
Tzimtzum,
process
the
after the Big
Tzimtzum
Bang.
process.
What's that? The
The
Tzimtzum.
Tzimtzum process where he stops creating.
Exactly. And there's a process though also of expansion. Okay. In the science, after the Big Bang, the world is like teeny tiny, and there's this like superinflation of the world rapidly expanding, okay, from something infinitesimally small and really hot and high pressure into the universe, which is really, really big today, and it's still expanding. And so that process of creation from something infinitesimally small and high temperature and high pressure, and then it's expanding, Chazal really describe that process in their own words. And they say that the oilamos were misrabim v'holchim. They were expanding and going and going and going. Ad she'amar la'olamo dai. Until HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, enough. I'm establishing the ratio between circumference and diameter. That's how I think of it. That the whole, three-dimensional existence was being called into existence by Kadosh Baruch Hu. And so he used this shame, Shakai, Shin Daled Yud, and it's the 314, which captures within it the number pi of 3.14 times 100, which is 10, the 10 spheros, and 10 spheros within 10 spheros, which is 100. So that the rapid expansion of the universe, and then, turning it into a sphere, as it were, was accomplished by this Shem Shakai, Shmisha Amar Laholamo Dai. And the last expression I'd like to share about pi and diameters and so forth comes from the Vilna Gaon. This is all on Mishnah Aleph. So I have a beautiful sefer here called Perish Agral Sefer Yetzira, and with an additional commentary on the Perish of the Vilna Gaon to explain it more. But the Vilna Gaon says the following: B'shloishim ushtayim, these 32, Kamoshim Afirish b'Mishnah Base. Okay, and I'll already give us a peek at Mishnah Base here. Mishnah Base says Eser Sphirois Belima. Ve'esrim u'shtayim oisi ois. Yisod shalosh imot. Sheva kfulot. V'shtem esrei pshutot. So a lot of numbers. It starts with 10 spherois belima. Belima could be of nothingness. Okay. It's also used for belima, like in modern Hebrew, the belamim are the brakes on the car. So you're supposed to be bolem your mouth from talking about them, because you can't really express what they are, the spheroids. They're beyond human comprehension. So they're called sphirot belima. So, but there's 10 of them. And I said they correspond to 10 numbers, 10 digits. So there's 10, let's call them digits for our sake. 22 letters that we very clearly understand, the 22 letters of Yisod, of the foundational Aleph Bet, the alphabet. But then the Sefer Yetzira divides, it analyzes the 22 letters of the alphabets into three groups. Three emot, there are three mother letters, there are 7 pairs, and there are 12 simple letters. Okay? So let me tell you just a little bit about that so I can share this board from the Vilna Gaon. The three mothers are Aleph, Mem, and Shin. And we saw this in the Maimer at Tzelem, that they correspond to Avir, Mayim, and Eish. Okay? This is Avir, air, and water, and fire. Okay? And Mother Earth contains all those, the other three elements. So there are three elements. They're represented by the letters Aleph, Mem, Shin. And those letters are called mothers. Again, we can't understand everything at once. We just have to sort of use the terminology to try and understand what we see in front of ourselves. So we're learning a Mishnah. Eser Sphirois Belima, Esrim Ushtaim Oisi Oisi Sod. Shalosh imot, Sheva kfulot. Sheva kfulot, the doubles, are the beged kaporet. Base gimel dalid, kaf pei, reish taf, where we know base vase, gimel gimel, dalid dalid, kaf chaf, pei fei, taf saf, and reish and maybe reish and reish, whatever. So there are 7 letters that have 2 versions, with the dot and without a dot. Those are called sheva kfulot, and that leaves 12 letters that are simple letters, pshutot. Okay, so the aleph base, the 22 foundational letters, are divided into 3 groups, 3 mos, sheva kfulot, b'shtei mesrei pshutot. Says the Vilna Gaon on Mishnah Aleph. The 32 paths of wisdom, Kemoshe Mefurish b'Mishnah base, Eser Spherois, Esri Mushtayim, 10 and 22 equals 32. Vehem kemispar hakav hasovev alachson eser. So he says what I said, that 32 is the circumference around a diameter of 10. V'nechelak le'eser v'chof beis. Why is the 32 divided into 10 and 22? Lefi shemechalek ha'eser shel alachson legimel imot v'zayin kfulot. The Vilna Gaon goes one step further, and he analyzes the diameter of 10. And he says 10 can be broken up into 7 plus 3. Okay? So we saw there are 3 imaot and sheva kfulot. And he now takes those numbers and he says, Lesheva, around 7 letters, the circumference is 22. Okay? Lesheva hakef hu chav beis. Ulegimel, and the 3 have a circumference of 10. Okay, those are approximations from our mathematical perspective. But the point is, the Vilna Gaon is building sort of Mishnah Aleph from Mishnah Base, that these numbers, these sort of foundational, I'm going to call them cardinal numbers, have meaning about Hashem constructing the world around the kedusha and the energy of these letters of the Aleph base, these families of letters, and they are building blocks. They're a diameter, and around these 3 letters, there's a sphere of 10. And around the 7 letters, there's a sphere of 22. And the 22 and the 10 together are 32 paths, nesivois pliois chachma, paths of wondrous wisdom by which one can ascend and see things and understand things. And it's represented, like we said, in our nervous system by the nerves on our spine, and how messages are transported through our own bodies from our brain to our body and from our body to our brain. So all that is going on in these Mishnayos in the beginning of Sefer Yetzira. And with that, I'm gonna leave it for this evening. We got to talk about these first 2 Mishnayos. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here.
Oh,
I
oh.
hope you got
Thank you,
something out of it.
Shkoyach.
Kol tuv, good night. Sei